Did we, Jeanette? All right. I think we are all here. All right, Claudia. Looks like everyone's here, so I'm going to bring the meeting to order, and then we'll go with roll, and then I'll do some explaining about what we talked about earlier. That's good with you, and then we'll get this thing rolling. I've got the agenda on my screen, so I'll just go through it as we go. Members, if you could turn on your, I know except for Tom holding your thing, but just have your mic on because we're getting ready to start this meeting, and go from there. Hopefully Jay's good with everything. If so, pull it up. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the order. The January 27th Finance Committee regular meeting. And I would like, Claudia, if you could take roll, please. Your mic's muted.
Chairman Reinhardt.
Here.
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Here.
Member Gardner.
Here.
Member Darnell.
Here.
Member Brown.
Here.
Thank you. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the three meetings today. Our first, we're kind of doing it backwards from what we've done in the past. So what we're going to do is just going to start off with the our general meeting, and then we'll flow into, we'll probably take a break or so, counting on how long the general meeting takes. If we have any motions or anything like that, as we progress in the meeting, if we have any motions that you would like to recommend, or if we do any voting, just kind of be clear when you come in, to say, hey, I'd like to make a motion. This is, I hear most of your voices, or I can see you doing it. But when we do a vote, Claudia's gonna go, Member Gonzalez, aye. Member so-and-so, aye. And we'll just go through the list so it's clear on who voted and what their vote was. Anybody got any questions to that? All right. I finished up reading the minutes for February 6th, excuse me, February 4th. I'd like, if you haven't read them, if you could take a minute to read them. Does everybody have or have read the meetings from February 4th?
Dave, it's not in my packet.
No, it wasn't. It was sent out a week after the meeting. We had it, remember we asked them, as soon as the meeting is done, within a week, could you send us the minutes so it's fresh in our mind? So just like circumstances like today, we wouldn't even remember what the meeting was about since it was February 4th. So she had sent us, I'd have to pull it back up. Let me see what date she sent it out. She sent it to us February 12th. I have asked Wendy, I don't know if she had time, if she found it, if she could shoot it out to everybody. Were you able to find it, Wendy?
Yes. I'm trying to send it to you because we have so many things open right now that it's a little bit tricky today.
I've got them. Do you want me to forward them over?
If everyone, like I said, if we can just, if you read them, I just, quite a bit of conversation. Then if everyone has
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting's minutes from Tuesday, February 4th, 2020.
I have a recommendation for approval of the minutes by Jeanette. Do I have a second?
A second motion.
I have a second from Orlando. Claudia, if you could get a vote, please.
Member Darnell,
You there, Tom?
Yes.
Member Gardner,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Aye. Yes.
Member Brown,
Yes.
Chairman Reinhardt.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Claudia. All right, next is the previous business, the matrix update.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I actually just received the final report summary today from Matrix. There's been a couple changes because of the COVID-19. They fell behind in their work, but I'm reviewing that right now. There are some significant changes to staffing models and efficiencies that we're going to be implementing. And as soon as I get done with that, I will forward a copy to all of you guys in the city council. But like I said, I just received the final summary report today, and I'm going through it as we speak.
All right, Bill, that's fair. And I guess maybe our next meeting, we could maybe have we can discuss it then.
Absolutely. We will make sure that happens.
All right, thanks, Bill. Current business. Wendy, you're
Yes, sir. That we
Yes.
So as you're seeing, it's your third quarter budget for June 30th, 2020. Obviously, the purpose, as always, is the presentation of these highlights of the third quarter for April 1st through June 30th. And then this is the overview of the city revs, and then, of course, any key department statistics for you. Overall, one of the biggest things that happened in COVID was that the effects have been to shared revenues, as you maybe have heard through the financial grapevine, with share of revenues projected at $671 million in reductions throughout the state. We've already started feeling, just in this last month, reporting up to May, we felt of the first 10% in revenue reduction. However, St. Cloud's performance is always outstanding, and ad valorem has obviously been not affected by COVID, and our charges for services have kind of kept steady through permitting, and so we're actually at a pretty healthy state, and still waiting for these variables from COVID to really show itself. And we've taken precautions already to kind of assess that, because we've lost some revenue marine, percentage right now. Expect also due to development. The 1% is where we're talking about that sales tax reduction in revenue. And as you can see, where we are is 40% at 75% of budget. Utility taxes, 70, and then county gas taxes, you start seeing that decline in the 60, 64s. We're about to that 10% behind on service fees as well as those gas taxes. And then item number 9 and 10, of course, are performing up to speed in service fees, and the St. Cloud interlocal, of course, is always at pace at 75% of budget. Overall, we're at 70% of revenue, meaning 5% behind what's expected at this time of the year, but we are hopeful and look forward to, as we continue climbing in the phase and hopefully eventually see maybe a phase 3 or not, we continue to see a little bit of stabilization occurring. So not too concerned at all. I mean, we are healthy. It's just a matter of calculating this variable that's really unknown. I've gone out there to review congressional reports on the pace. A lot of it you'll see later reflected in future meetings on how to try to calculate it and be proactive versus reactive. Any questions I can answer on the top 10 revenues right now as I went through them?
No.
We've seen the water fund, 65%, both in water and the surface are ideal and optimal in enterprise fund. And we loss, or you say like shortness of revenue, we have a lot of things in, and also delay in cash and everything through collection fees, routes, you know. So we're monitoring that because we're 10% behind, but overall enterprise funds are just, you know, will average out to a fantastic pace and almost finish off, if not ahead of their budgeted. St. Cloud interlocal, 65%, not really a 10% lag for us. It's always the cash and when we receive it in the time of these reports. So we're always about a month to 2 months back. We're still working with the receivables that were done in 2011, 2012 that always keep us about 2 years back in cash. when those receivables are collected. The building fund at 36%, this was also a little bit expected. We're calculating numbers and watching them because of the shutdown during COVID and some of the lag in permitting fees. We were collecting and doing permits. It's just a matter of collecting the cash. We had a couple of snafus in between that as far as how to process the cash because we couldn't take online payments and things of that nature. So there was a slow in that. With COVID as well, we had issues with routes and brinks and getting picked up because we had never seen kind of a pandemic like this. So we had to go a little bit back to chisel and stone, and so that caused a little lag there. And then Stormwater Fund, $1.4 million, 51% of budget, and this is relevant to the fees that we're currently charging. We're looking at because they're not affording maybe the business, and we're projected to have that, fully analyzed and presented, that we're, have a fund that obviously can afford itself just because it's never been equalized in a couple of years to where it needed to be. Budget, of course, includes $16.4 million of prior year fund across the different funds. $10 million of that is in the general fund, $3.5 million of that in the water fund, $1.7 million in the sewer fund, and $55,000 in the refuse or sanitation fund, and then $702,000 in the stormwater fund. Good to report for that is that out of those $16.4 million, the actual use has been $841,000, which is almost right about 5% of use, which is a good ratio and always keeps our reserves where they need to be and higher than expected. I'm going to the next slide and moving to expenditures, unless anybody, again, please interrupt me if you have a question. Major fund expenditures, as we go through the general fund, one of the beautiful things that even though COVID did affect us is that the staff, the management of directors, the leadership have done a fantastic job just monitoring their expenditures and taking some proactive decisions in order to, again, be proactive. And one of them was, the city managers made the executive decision that cancellation of all travel out of state and in-state would be suspended. We slowed down the path of purchasing a bit and try to control that during COVID, slowing down the payable runs and things of that nature until we at least knew what it looked like, which of course puts us at now $56 million in actual expenditures to include encumbrances in the general fund. So, we slowed down a little bit of the pace and still were able to run what we were running in the city, which is just a very an honorable mention that needs to be made because it's a team effort there. Water fund and sewer fund always as well keeping consistent with their expenditures, and at 75%, they are at 67 and 63 respectively. Sewer fund, sanitation, 63 to 69%, both at 9.8 and then $10.6 million in expenditures comparative to budget. And the St. Cloud interlocal, $5.2 million in actual encumbrances and expenditures at 65%. This building fund, while for me, I love to see that 35% number. We continue to monitor this because we cannot have, by House bill, too much reserve. So they have invested and expended quite a bit of money this year in personnel, new infrastructure, such as vehicles, equipment, things of the nature, because we do have a lot of reserve in the building fund. It is a restricted fund, and so we need to keep them up to pace so we don't run into trouble of not spending that reserve in an accurate tempo as we should. So we're keeping a close eye on that with another quarter to go. And I guess it's never a bad problem when a fund has to spend money. So. Finally, the Stormwater Fund, $1.8 million at 67%. This, of course, budget report includes that $8.7 million in City Council contingency, which no dollars at this point have been expended. And then the budget includes $24,000 in contingency for the St. Cloud OUC. Overall for the city, the major fund expenditures averaged 23% across the board, monitoring these costs. And like I said, a lot of it was the effect of COVID and the proactiveness of monitoring our costs, so we didn't run into any issues, which we have not, and we don't anticipate to do so right now. And finally, the overview of the major funds between surplus and deficit, based on your revs and actual encumbrances and expenditures. In the general fund, we're projected right now a surplus of 2.7. In the water fund, deficit of 317. This is is going to be fixed and aligned at the end of the year. You're pretty, very familiar with the end of year close, where we level up all the accounts and true them up. So we will fix this and adjust anything that, within the P&Ls for the water fund. The sewer fund projected with a preliminary surplus of $3.6 million, almost 3.7 there. And then the sanitation fund, we were prepared for the 1.8 deficit. Right now we're working towards fixing that with, additional maybe adjustments that we need to do to expenditures and pull some rev dollars in for them. Again, this has a lot to do with fees, and the cost to run the business has increased, and they need to be balanced out as well. And then the St. Cloud Interlocal will always never have a surplus and or deficit because it's a net zero budget, and we exactly expend what we take in. Finally, the building fund, just projected on those revenues and actuals. Remember that there's a reserve. They're projecting $80,394 in surplus. And then that stormwater fund, $456K, again, will be adjusted prior to the end of the fiscal year as we monitor this fund and adjust the line. Other than that, from a 30,000 view, we are healthy as a city through a time that we had so many variables that I think we've just done the best we could with what's come at us, and the city has been very healthy to sustain, keep our staff here staffed, everybody with no financial impact at this point, and our funds holding expenditures where they need to be in order to be conservative, and our revenues, trickling in, and we're making sure where every dollar is going in a steady pace to get through this final fourth quarter and enter fiscal year 2021 even more prepared and more streamlined for the what if, and hope this thing takes a turn around. We see the bell curve. We just hope that bell curve turns quicker than later. I'll open it up for you all if you have any questions, but that is your third quarter. And like I said, I'm happy to report that it's an overall, for what's gone on, a very good presentation of the city's strength at this point.
Any questions from members?
No, everything sounds great.
All right, not hearing anything, Wendy. Thank you so much. It does look like we're doing all right there. Next is Donna. You're up.
Good evening, committee, city management.
Good evening, Donna.
Share my screen. Is it coming through?
Yes, it's on the
Yes,
screen.
ma'am.
Thank you very much. All right,
There you
so what I would like to review with you the investment performance for the period ending June 30th, 2020. For this period, the city's portfolio had a total return of 2.09%, and the components of that was 90.96 or 96 basis points of interest income that equates to almost $1.2 million, and then a positive market value adjustment of over 1%, 1.13%, and that is represented in the adjustment value here, almost $1.4 million. That totals up to the $2.558 million of income. That is that 2.09, and that is your year-to-date, rolling year-to-date as of June 30th. For the quarter, for the quarter ending June 30th, the portfolio had a total return of almost 1%, 0.99%. The components of that return were 78 basis points of interest income, or $257,000, and 21 basis points of positive market adjustment, which was $67,000. That totals the $324,000 in investment income that equates back to that 0.99% total return. During this last quarter, rates remained low. There was no indication of any rate increase in our near future. The portfolio, though, did record a modest gain of that $67,000. This is just a snapshot of the portfolio and the allocation of the portfolio itself. As of June 30th, 2020, as you can see, the portfolio is heavily weighted in cash and local government investment pools. The reason for that is twofold. One, very attractive rates in that area that we were able to get, and two, we are positioning the portfolio to outsource the investment to get professional investment management or outsource that. So we're positioning the portfolio so that there will be ease in that transition. And with that, I will take any questions you might have at this point.
No questions, Amon?
We good?
Good? Anybody have questions?
So much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're able to hear me, okay, guys?
Yes, I can hear you.
Next on our agenda. All right, looks like we're gonna be going, that's pretty much the meeting in general. Wendy, you were talking about the members and directors coming on at 7, because right now it looks like everything, the agenda, everything, we're caught up, and other business is basically the next 2 meetings.
Yes, sir. I kind of want to, I guess, could defer to either the city manager or deputy what they'd like to do with the time, because obviously I was trying to be respectful to, in the event we went a little long by 7 for directors. If we are going to wait, or they would like to just give a little break to let directors on, to be fair with them, you know.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
I'm sorry, Bill.
I was
didn't hear you.
asking to be recognized.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Sorry.
All right, thank you. We can send up a flare and get them all on. Probably take about 10 minutes, because some of them weren't planning to. I told them to come on at 1:45, so that's 10 minutes from now. And I'll give Jay time to switch everything over, and we'll get out the message to everybody to log on.
Everyone's good with that. What I'd like to do then, live again, if Jay's good with that, and everyone else. Anyone got any objections to that?
No objections.
Sounds good to me.
So we'll come back at 6:45.
I would like
Okay.
to go, you can come back you can stay on, but I'm saying we'll go live and we'll start meeting 2 at 6:50. That gives them an additional, they got to be there at 6:45. We'll give them a few minutes to get in. And so by 6:50, everyone should be on and we'll get started then.
Okay.
Jay is requesting to please not log off, just pause your screen.
Yes, good point. Yeah, just stay on your computer. Just put it on mute and then I'll pop back in. All of us will just pop back in if you want to get on at 6:45, that's fine. But at 6:50, we will start the meeting and move from there. If there is no further questions, the regular meeting, finance meeting will now be adjourned. Thank you, guys.